Okay, before I begin, just a special welcome to everybody here, our guest judges, all the comm instructors, mechanical, civil, electrical, ABET, can't forget them this time, and of course my family sitting there right in the middle. I'm Kurtis Lynes, and I'm second year mechanical engineering in the design option, and ever since I was about this tall, I've been just a huge gearhead, just loved anything with a motor and a steering wheel, preferably a V8, but and when I was in high school, I used to work on diesel engines, and then I decided to become an automotive mechanic actually after that, and I did my first year here at BCIT. Unfortunately, after that fell through, I decided to do the engineering route, and I've been enjoying it ever since. So today I'm going to be talking about diesel engine fuel injection and emissions control systems. It's a very hot topic nowadays because of climate change and that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm basically going to be talking about the basic types of fuel injection, the two main methods that have been used for over the past 50 or so years, and what we're doing now to reduce the emissions coming out of the tailpipe. Brief conclusion, and then I'll have time to answer any questions. Okay, why do we need emission control systems? Well, obviously climate change is a big deal nowadays, and Bill Hewitt, president founder of Power Stroke Specialties, says it pretty blatantly. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, wants you to wrap your lips around the tailpipe and breathe in and not die. So in the last 15 years, we've gone from cloudy, smoky, loud, inefficient trucks like this one here to clean-burning, efficient, and just overall good-running vehicles, like nothing like we had just even 10, 15 years ago. So it all comes down to the fuel delivery system mainly, and what we've been using since the dawn of time is called an injection pump, which pulls the fuel from the fuel tank and delivers it to an injection pump via the lift pump. It runs at about 7 or so psi. The injection pump pressurizes the fuel up to about 25 to 30,000 psi and sprays it at the top of the cylinder, right at the top of the combustion stroke at the precise time, because it is timed mechanically to the engine. Now, the advantage to this is this system is very simple. It's very reliable. It's been used since the dawn of time. However, the disadvantage with it is that with fuel gelling in sub-zero temperatures, it doesn't like to start right away. Produces a lot of black smoke, and the engine is quite noisy. It's just because you have no electronic metering whatsoever. It's purely mechanical. Now, what we use today, in about 2007 or so model year and later, all trucks that are on the road now come with this style of fuel injection. It's called common rail, which you have a small lift pump that feeds the fuel to the high pressure pump at about 7 or so psi. The high pressure pump pressurizes it between 25 and 30,000 psi and sends it to the fuel manifold. Now, you have an individual solenoid controlling the fuel flow through the injectors via the engine control module. So you can get very, very precise fuel metering. So the main advantage to this is you get very precise fuel metering with the electronic controls. Precisely metered fuel also allows for less particulate emissions, less noise, and also increased fuel efficiency. You have very little black smoke, like I said before, and very reliable cold starting. And this works by what's called pilot injection. So the fuel injector pulses a few times before and after the main delivery of fuel in order to cushion the shock of the fuel burning. The only problem is this system is very costly to repair if you were to have a problem with it. Now, we're controlling two main pollutants that are coming out of the tailpipe in modern diesel engines. First one is oxides of nitrogen, also known as NOx. It combines with the hydrogen in water molecules to form acid rain. It's also created by heat and compression during the combustion cycle. The more efficient your combustion, the more NOx emissions you have. And diesel engines are very efficient at combustion. And particulate matter, which everybody knows, is black smoke. It has about the same effects as smoking, where it increases your heart rate and your blood pressure. And it's the result of an excessively rich fuel mixture due to a high loading condition, such as towing a huge trailer up a hill or trying to outrun your neighbor's Corvette. Never a good idea. Okay, the exhaust gas recirculation system is how we control NOx emissions. It basically takes exhaust gas from out of the turbocharger, runs it through a cooler, and then meters it back into the engine through a valve. And how this works is this exhaust gas that's sent back into the engine occupies a volume of usable air, basically reducing combustion efficiency, which subsequently reduces the NOx emissions. So the advantage, it reduces the NOx emissions, however, only slightly. And because you're reducing the combustion efficiency, this robs engine power. You're introducing 1250 degree Fahrenheit exhaust gas heat back into your cooling system, which is overtaxing the cooling system. And if the EGR cooler fails, you're going to overheat the engine pretty badly, which is a very common problem in the International Navistar engines that were used by Ford Motor Company from 2003 to 2007. Most engine manufacturers implement this system since about 2003. Now, selective catalytic reduction is a fairly new technology it was originally based in power plants from years ago and has now been brought to the automotive world. So basically you have a reaction where oxides of nitrogen react with ammonia, carbon monoxide, and oxygen to become nitrogen gas, basically gaseous water or water vapor, and carbon dioxide. By running diesel exhaust fluid, which is 32.5% urea and deionized water, down and into the exhaust and mists it into the exhaust, into the selective reduction catalyst, it is able to run this reaction here and treat the exhaust gas and reduce the NOx emissions. The advantage to this system is this reduces almost all of the NOx emissions depending on the amount of fluid being used. It eliminates or reduces the need for the EGR system. The only thing is you have to fill the tank periodically, which is typically every time that you fill your fuel tank. And of course that selective reduction catalyst is very, very expensive. And the engine computer will shut it down completely if you run out of diesel exhaust fluid. It's like running out of fuel. It won't run without it. So how we control the particulate emissions is by a diesel particulate filter, which is basically this big can in the exhaust here with a platinum screen that catches all the exhaust gas that goes through, all the soot that goes through it. Now, you have a differential pressure sensor that senses the difference between both sides in pressure. Now, obviously as the filter becomes clogged, the engine side is going to get higher pressure than the tailpipe side. So what the computer does, once it senses that the pressure is too high, the difference, it sprays fuel into the exhaust system through the diesel oxidation catalyst, which heats the exhaust system up to 14,000 degrees Fahrenheit, subsequently burning all the soot off into an ash, and then it blows it out the tailpipe after. This reaction I've put down here up top is a basic combustion reaction that happens during the regeneration process. So the advantage to this system is you reduce pretty much all of your particulate matter coming out of the exhaust. You look in the tailpipe of a modern diesel engine and there is nothing in the tailpipe. It is totally clean. The disadvantage is this requires the vehicle to be driven on the highway or at least at a high RPM in order to support the regeneration process. This significantly reduces fuel economy because you're injecting a large amount of fuel into the exhaust stream during this process. And of course, the diesel particulate filter and the diesel oxidation catalyst being made of platinum are very, very expensive to replace. So in conclusion, our modern common rail fuel injection systems that are implemented today by the engine manufacturers are very smooth, quiet, and provide fuel efficient and reliable power. The selective catalytic reduction reduces almost all NOx emissions coming out of the tailpipe, and with very few drawbacks. The selective catalytic reduction also eliminates the problem of the EGR system constantly gumming up the top end of the engine, which is another common problem that rears its ugly head from time to time. And the diesel particulate filters, they maintain zero particulate coming out of the tailpipe at all times. So, some of the references that I used to make this presentation possible. And of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody would like to ask. Thank you. Questions, anyone? Yes?
I think I You said that it gets trapped in the filter and then it gets burned into ash, which is then exhausted?
Yes. What the engine control module does, once it senses that the filter is plugged, it sends fuel down the exhaust, which reacts with the diesel oxidation catalyst. If I go back a few slides here. So the fuel goes down from this injector into this diesel oxidation catalyst. The reaction that takes place heats the platinum in the filter up to a very, very high temperature, which then what happens is actually the engine controller gears the transmission down to rev the engine up a little bit higher, which creates enough force to blow the ash out the tailpipe.
So do you have to have like a special system to do this, or are you just supposed to rev your engine every once in a while?
It does it on its own without anybody knowing, yeah. This system was implemented in, I believe it was 2007. It was a federal mandate to have this system on any diesel engine.
Why doesn't it count as exhaust, the ash? Is it because it's less harmful?
Yes, it is much less harmful than the particulate matter. Anyone else? Yes?
So does it reduce the smell as well?
Actually, it's not so much this system that does, it's the fuel metering of the common rail injection. Yeah, if you stand next to a tailpipe of an old engine, it smells really bad, yeah. The fuel metering is so precise on a common rail engine that you don't get that thick, nasty smell that everybody's so familiar with. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes?
How does it work with biodiesel?
With biodiesel. There has been a few issues with the biodiesel, mainly because it's a little bit thicker, and I guess it's mainly with the fuel injection systems that it has a problem with. But because it contains it doesn't contain any sulfur actually, just straight biodiesel, it's actually better for this kind of system. But with the injection pump, if I go back even more here, apologize. With the injection pump, the fuel can actually get in, when it gets inside the injection pump, in cold temperatures, it actually becomes a thick kind of sludge. It gels, which causes hard starting. It can't pump the fuel through the injectors well enough. So that is an issue with biodiesel. But other than that, they don't usually just sell straight biodiesel out of the pump as well. It's usually blended. It's usually 20% through about 10%, somewhere in that range, blended with regular ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you, Kurtis.
Thank you.